red peppers, red bell peppers. If you didn't want to use red, you could use a combination of red, green, yellow, whatever you like. So sweet red peppers. And we want to put some olive oil in a saute pan. So here is my pan. Here's a little olive oil. Let's get that going. But for this, we're going to use another type of Italian mushroom. Remember, these were the Italian oysters that we used, the fresh ones. But what if you just had access to dried mushrooms? Nothing wrong with that, especially when they're porcini. So you need about an ounce for this particular recipe. So here are our dried porcini, and all we did was pour warm water over that until they looked like this. You see? Now they are nice and hydrated. Look at how soft they are. So once they're like that, then you can drain them off. And you're ready to use them in your recipe. You can chop them up or you can leave them whole. And don't throw away that water, because that water would be good in stock or soup. You know what? I'm actually going to add a little bit right here. I think that's a great idea. Just came to me. All right, so that goes in. And now we've got our pan going, and we need to put in our peppers. So they go in. We're going to turn the heat up on that a little bit. And we're going to let those go for a few minutes. I want those to get somewhat soft before I add the mushrooms. So get those soft. And while we are getting those soft, I should talk to you about Gran Turco. Gran Turco means cornmeal. And this is Italian white cornmeal, organic white cornmeal that comes from northern Italy. So this is white cornmeal, but you could do this with just generic cornmeal that you buy in the grocery store. You could use a yellow cornmeal if you want, or white cornmeal. There's even a red cornmeal, believe it or not. When I was in northern Italy, I went to a Gran Turco processing mill where they showed us a particular strain of red corn that was used to make the cornmeal. All right, the peppers are cooking down, and now what we need to do is just give them a little bit of oomph. And for that, I like to use just a little bit of white balsamic vinegar. So just a little splash goes in there, and you let that just evaporate. Doesn't take very long. And now, let me see how we're doing here. This is good, coming along. That's a big pan, isn't it? And now, we want to add those mushrooms, which are right here. So they go in. This is going to be really delicious. And we just want to get those going until the peppers are a little bit softer than that. So now I'm going to turn the heat down on that and let that go. You see what we're doing back here. This has got to cook down just a bit more. That's a really big pan. Move that back on the flame. Move this out of the way. Okay, now. Okay, that was the problem. I didn't have it on the heat. The kitchen. Okay, pasta. A pound of penne. The penne's in. Let's give that a stir. Now that's got to come back to the boil until it's al dente. I'll explain that later. Meanwhile, we need to cook polenta. So I'm going to turn this over to this burner. We got a lot going on in this kitchen today. And in this pan, we want to start with 3 cups of milk. You could use low-fat milk, whole milk, half whole milk, half low-fat milk. You could use skim milk. And we need a cup of that cornmeal. So here is my cornmeal. Let's get a cup out. And when you open cornmeal like this, you want to keep the rest in the refrigerator. So you get this in, and you start whisking this until it's thick. thick enough to start moving away from the sides of the pan. Now, this is going to take about, maybe 5 to 8 minutes to do. All right, our polenta is nice and thick. So now we can serve that. And here's how you do it. Get yourself a nice plate platter. Traditionally, this is often served on a board, a wooden board. And then take the polenta and just pour it. You see? See how nicely it pours? It's nice and creamy. And of course, as it solidifies, as it cools, it's going to get harder. And oftentimes what I like to do is put this in the refrigerator if I'm not going to use it right away, get it cold, and then I use a cookie cutter to cut out shapes. And then I reheat those shapes in a little bit of olive oil, and then I serve them individually. But this is also a beautiful way to do it. So there it is. And then we can take our beautiful sauce and put it right over the top. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at how pretty that looks. I picked the right plate for this too, didn't I? So we have our porcini, our sweet red peppers over the top. Absolutely gorgeous.